What up, my friends? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're doing one of my favorite videos, which is just to talk about the books that I read last month. I went very heavy on romance in the month of March, and I don't have as many books to talk about as I usually do. 8 is kind of a low number for me. It was just kind of a crazy month. Here's the thing. I get a lot of comments about the amount of books that I read, and people are always like, how do you read so many books? I can only read like one book every 2 months. I just want to take a moment and say this. I read from the years of like 2007 to 2021, probably like 4 books. I didn't get back into reading until right before I had my oldest son. He is now a little over 3. I don't watch a lot of TV. So there's a lot of people that find really great shows that they love and they binge watch. While people are doing that, I'm reading books instead. I also am an incredibly fast reader, but also I read books that aren't like taxing mentally. Right now, I'm in a place where I want books to be more of a source of entertainment. So a lot of the books that I'm reading are pretty quick to fly through. So I just don't want you to measure yourself against anybody on the internet, because I see some people that are able to rip through like 50 books in a month. Just read books because you enjoy them. Read them to search whatever it is you're looking for. Right now, I'm in a stage of life where I'm looking for entertainment, but there's other stages of life where I'm looking for education, insight. I just wanted to bring it up because I always get comments like that, and I never want to make somebody feel less than. So for me, 8 is a light month, but that doesn't mean if you only did 2, then I'm looking down on you in some way. Not at all. If you get 2 books read, I'm happy for you, because hopefully that meant that in those 2 books, you found whatever it was you needed in the pages, and that's what we should all be striving for, and not playing the comparison Olympics. I am such an advocate for just finding whatever piece of joy you can. So if that means reading 2 books, if that means reading 8 books, if that means reading 30 books, whatever it is, if it brings you joy, life is tough enough, so let's just all celebrate each other for whatever the count is. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I didn't even plan to say any of that. So we've got the 8 books that we're going to go over that I read in the month of March, but I also wanted to do a recap since it's the end of the quarter and go over any of my 5-star reads from January, February, and March. That way, if you're headed off to the library or your favorite independent bookstore, you can add these to your list because you know your friend Kate really loved them. First up is a book called Public Relations, and this is by Katie Heany and Ariana Rebolini. Hopefully I said both of those names correctly. So this one is a spicy romance. I gave it a 2 out of 5 on stars and 1 out of 5 on spice. This one follows Rose, who works for a PR firm, and when her boss is unable to attend a meeting, she steps in, and the star client takes notice of her and ends up insisting that she be the one to handle his account personally. As she's building him the perfect fake relationship with another celebrity, she starts to realize that both of them are developing feelings that are going to complicate the situation. When I don't give a score of at least a 3 on a book, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because I never want to dog a book, because it might just be a compatibility issue with me as a reader and them as an author. And that could be the case here, but I just felt like there was absolutely no romance in this book. I have recently gotten better about not spending my time in books and being okay with not finishing books. I used to be one of those people that was like, no, you have to finish the book if you started. But I just realized there's so many great books out there to get to. So if you're not compatible with one, it's okay to move on to something else. It could be something that you pick up in the future when you're in a different mood, if you're looking for a different vibe. It might be the right book at the wrong time type situation. So I was about to give up on this book, but I just kept feeling like something was going to happen, and I ended up being completely wrong. Nothing ends up happening in this book. It just felt very unromantic to me, and it was just not a love of mine. I don't know if I'm just not meant for celebrity books. They always have this like built up resentment situation happening, and it's just not for me. So I just did not love this one, and it's not one I'd recommend picking up. All right, the next one was Shipped by Angie Hockman. And this one I gave a 2.5 out of 5, and then for spice, I gave a 1 out of 5. So this one has Heany, who's up for a new position at work, but she's going up against a remote employee that she constantly is at war with. They end up getting sent on a cruise together so they can each come up with new marketing strategies to present to their boss for the position. And as they're spending time together, she starts to realize that maybe the hatred she felt towards him was actually tension and chemistry. This was another one that just was not for me. I was really excited about this one, so it might be a case of me like having high expectations, just because I personally love a romance where there's like an escape on a cruise ship or a vacation or something like that. Those are usually my favorite romances. For this one, I just never got that escape vibe. I never felt swept away by romance. I never felt swept away by the characters. they were just pretty insufferable and annoying. So overall, it was just not a love for me. Good news though, this next book was a love for me. This one was Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on stars, 2 out of 5 on Spice. So for this one, Skylar is a famous country musician and she just discovered that her parents have royally screwed her over and she decides what she needs is a dose of independence. So she escapes to a small town in Canada and crosses paths with a local horse trainer that cannot seem to stand her, but she can't get him out of her mind. So the first book in this series is called Wild Love, I'm pretty sure, and I absolutely loved it. So because I loved it so much, I had been putting reading this one off because I was convinced that there was no way this one was going to live up to the first one, but I was completely wrong. I absolutely loved this book. I loved the country musician aspect. I felt like it was so real, and the two main characters played off of each other so well. The chemistry and connection between them and the banter that they had going on was just so good. It was one of those situations where Skylar was a people pleaser by nature, but with him, she kind of challenged him and he brought out the sass in her and like the fire in her. And so she started getting comfortable being herself. There is a good amount of spice in there. So if you're the type of person that avoids spice in romances, I completely get it. This one did have a good amount in it, but I feel like you could probably skim through it and still get that amazing plot that came with this book. This is a complete recommend for me. I would also read the first one because both of them were so cute. All right, the next one was called Marriage for One by Ella Mays. Hopefully I'm saying that name correctly. This one was a spicy romance. I gave it a 2 out of 5 on stars, 1 out of 5 on Spice. This one follows Jack and Rose, and he had proposed marriage to her because he found out about a stipulation in her uncle's will that requires her to get married. She can't quite figure out what his angle is, but she feels like she's been backed into a situation where she cannot refuse his offer. It is not normal for me to have this many 2s and 2.5s. Okay, I am pretty reasonable when it comes to rating romances. I don't rate them with as much expectations as I would say a thriller. Maybe that's unfair of me. I don't know. But romances, I kind of just give them a little bit more grace. I just don't want you guys to think that like I've got all these 2s and 2.5s back to back, so I'm like a negative Nancy. I'm normally not a negative Nancy. I had been on a path to try and discover kind of lesser known titles and authors, and I kind of stumbled through some ones that I just don't think were my vibe. So in me trying to discover new books, I kind of landed on some that just don't work for me, and that's totally okay. That's what happened here. This one just didn't work for me. I did see this on another person's vlog talking about how much she loved it, so it might be one that you also would love. The plot didn't line up with the way that the characters were acting. The characters' actions towards each other were kind of bizarre. It just was totally not a love for me. The only reason I stuck through this one is because there was a secret that kept being hinted at, and then when you finally get to the secret, I felt like it just kind of fizzled out at the end. So it really did not solidify how much time I had invested into this one. All right, the next one was called The Retreat by Haley Gardner. This one I gave a 3 out of 5 on stars, 0 out of 5 on Spice, so it is a closed door romance. So in this one, Lainey's morning takes a turn for the worse when she shows up to her house and there's trash all across her driveway. She goes over to her neighbor to try and offer some assistance, and he ends up being an entitled jerk. When she shows up to work, she finds out that that entitled jerk is none other than the boss's son, who she has to have a very important meeting with. So this one started out so strong. I was sure it was going to be like a 4 or a 4.5. I did not want to put it down. I really, really enjoyed it. But somewhere around the halfway mark, it kind of just lost its steam, and it's almost like the characters turned into completely different people, and I was just so disconnected from the story at that point. However, the overall plot on this one is super cute. So if you're looking for a closed door romance, which means there's no steamy scenes whatsoever, and you're looking for kind of like a Hallmarky vibe, this one definitely has it. But just maybe go into it with the expectations of like having a little bit of grace, because it is on the awkward, cringy side at moments, but the beginning half is really cute. The next one that I read was called Love Interest by Claire Gilmore. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 on stars and 2 out of 5 on Spice. So in this one, Casey is passed over for a position and she finds out that it goes to the board chairman's son, Alex. She's forced to work alongside with him, and despite the fact that she's determined to believe that nepotism was at play, she realizes that he is very capable for the job and starts to realize exactly how charming he is. What I loved about this one is it is set in New York City and it has a very fresh and fun vibe to it. I felt like the writing of the city just felt very alive, and it just felt like a love letter to the city, basically. And I love books like that. There's something about New York City that is just such a vibe in books. But the downside of it is I felt like these people were supposed to be these like high-powered, up-and-coming corporate executives, and a lot of the book is kind of spent partying as if they're college roommates, and that part just felt a little disconnected to me. However, I am from a very small town. I then moved to an island. I lived in Hawaii, and now I live in Florida. I've never lived in like a metropolitan city or anything like that, so maybe that's just what people do in their late 20s and early 30s when you live in the city. Maybe you are out partying all the time. I don't know. I was having a hard time because the plot is all about them advancing in their careers, and it just felt like they were very immature outside of work, if that makes sense. But other than that, it was a really cute book. I think it's something that people would like, and I thought the plot was really good in it. The next one I'm so excited to talk about, and this is Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. What is so funny about this is the first book in the series, Butcher and Blackbird, is one that everybody went crazy for, and I just did not love on the level and the energy that other people did. I thought it was cute. I would recommend it to people that enjoy like dark romance or like different romance. Like if you're looking for a different vibe and a darker vibe, it's something that I would be like, might be one, because a lot of people enjoyed it. Just wasn't like a total favorite for me. I had read the Mind F series. I'll put a picture up on the screen, by S.T. Abbey, pretty close to reading Butcher and Blackbird. And I think that kind of impacted how I felt about Butcher and Blackbird, because the Mind F series, if you're into dark romance and kind of like true crime vibes, that one is a series to read, okay? I think that I just read it too close together, and they have a lot of underlying themes that are similar, so I was kind of in a comparison game. I had not picked up Leather and Lark because I was like, meh about Butcher and Blackbird. Just didn't live up to the hype for me. Well, I texted my friend because I just felt like this month I was kind of in a reading slump, to be honest. You guys are seeing my scores. I just felt like I couldn't find anything and I needed a guarantee. So I texted one of my friends and she said, have you read Butcher and Blackbird and the series? And so I explained to her I did, and she said the second one is so good and the third one is even better. My other friend had just finished them as well and also gave me the same feedback. So I was like, okay, that's two of them. They usually don't steer me wrong. I'm going to dive into it, and I am so glad that I did. This one has Lark, who's in a position to save a man that she hates, and she chooses to do it because she knows that it'll help ensure that her best friend stays happy. I'm telling you guys, I just absolutely loved this one. This one has a very particular audience, though. If you're not into like dark romance, I never watched the show Dexter, but I feel like if you liked that type of vibe, that would be what this book would be. It's very unhinged, very chaotic, very witty, very quick. There's kind of like a mafia vibe to it. I just felt like this one went way above and beyond the first one. I think the first one I enjoyed kind of like the entertainment factor, the witty banter, and like the unique love story aspect, but I felt like the plot really wasn't there and the communication wasn't great. I feel like in this one, they took all of the good things from the first one and just expanded it and added more development for both plots and characters. The family aspect in this one is just so good. There's like a found family vibe happening. This has a specific audience, so I always have a hard time saying I recommend a book like this because it's definitely on the dark side, definitely on the spicy side, and you definitely want to look up trigger warnings. I now cannot wait to read the third one, but I use Libby to download most of my books, which is an app where you can put in your library card and then you can get a digital copy sent directly to your Kindle for absolutely free. I know that a lot of people know about Libby, but I'm shocked by the amount of times I bring up Libby and people don't know that exists because they're paying for both audiobooks and Kindle books. But in reality, you can just use the Libby app to get both of those. And there's another app called Hoopla as well. Not as many libraries, I think, are connected to that, but mine is. So I usually primarily go to Libby first, and then if Libby doesn't have it available, I go to Hoopla second, and I barely pay for books. Anyways, Libby has a very long hold on the third one, so I'm hoping that speeds up a little because maybe people love it so much they read through it a little bit faster. But overall, this is definitely a series I would recommend if you're into dark romances and you want something a little bit different than your typical rom-com. Now, We did not start the month out strong, but we sure ended it strong. Story of My Life by Lucy Score. This one was a 5-star read for me and a 2 out of 5 on Spice. This one follows Hazel, who has just gone through a brutal divorce. She's having the worst time in her writing career, and she just found out she needs to vacate her apartment. In a moment of complete desperation and out of character for her, she decides to blindly purchase a home sight unseen in a small town and just try to start over, and hopes to go there and get some inspiration for a small town romance that'll be her next bestseller. This one just checked every single romance box for me. Now, I'm gonna say this. Take my 5-star score with a little bit of a grain of salt because I had a rough reading month. So I don't know if this one just blew my socks off because of the fact that I had ones that I just didn't connect with as much, but I have no critique for this one. It was hilarious. It was unhinged. It was chaotic. There was points where I was crying. There's points where I was cackling. I have recommended this book to 3 people and was aggressive in my energy of getting them to read it. So 2 of them did start it, and they both keep texting me and being like, Kate, I cannot stop cackling. I need to put this book down because I'm accomplishing nothing, because it just was pure entertainment. So you want to keep reading, but not because you're chasing a story, but because you're just like enjoying yourself. And that's the perfect book to me. That is the absolute perfect book to me. There was like no anxiety about it. There's definitely a plot that keeps you interested, but it's not enough to stress you out. It's small town vibes. I love small town vibes. And it's about an author who's trying to write a romance book. So the author, Lucy Score, of this actual book, what I loved about it is she somehow balances advocating for romance and celebrating romance books while still kind of poking fun at those like awkward, cringy pieces of romance that we all just love and cherish. She does some type of balancing act with those 2 things that just works absolutely perfect in this book. Again, I have no feedback on how it could get better, so that is a 5-star read to me. Now, it's a romance. It's not the next great American novel, but it's something that I would 100% recommend picking up if you're looking for some chaotic entertainment, because this is absolute chaos. There's some parts in this that you're just like, where does that even live in someone's head to write down on paper? That's how some of these scenes went. So anyways, overall, could not recommend this one more. Probably one of my favorite romances I've read in a very long time. And my friend, you deserve to read this book. So put it on your TBR next time you're at the library or wherever. Okay, so that officially wraps up all of the books that I read in the month of March. I am going to go ahead and give my top 3 now. No shock here. Story of My Life by Lucy Score is number 1 for me. Leather and Lark by Brynn Weaver would be number 2. And then Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Those ones you definitely want on your radar, and I think you should add to your TBR. And now I have the 6 books that I read this year that were 5-star reads in the first quarter of the year. So these are ones that I read in January, February, and March that I gave a 5-star to. So first up, we have Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This one is just absolutely adorable. Sarah Adams is one of my auto-buy authors. I love reading anything from her, but something about this When in Rome series from her just sinks into my heart. She writes the most beautiful, dynamic characters that you just feel like you can relate to, even if they're not following your exact path in life. Just in case Spice rating does impact your decision on whether to read a book, 1 out of 5 on Spice. I want to say there's like 2 chapters in this one that feature Spice, and I'm pretty sure she gives an author's note at the beginning to let you know when they occur, so then that way you can kind of skim over it or skip it entirely if Spice makes you uncomfortable. I love that she does that. Overall, this is one that I just walked away with a major book hangover for, and one that I would definitely recommend. All right, next up was a historical romance, Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson. I don't know why more people are not talking about this book, because it has to be one of the best historical romances I've ever read, and I have read so many because I absolutely love historical romance. Something about this book was just so beautiful. It was breathtaking. I loved the characters. I loved the setting. I just loved the way the author wrote. It was just so eloquent and beautiful. It felt so real, and it felt like you could process a lot of emotions while you were reading the book. I could not give any feedback on how it could get better. One of the best historical romances there's out there, I am convinced. So if you are also into historical romances or looking to dive into the genre for the first time, that is definitely one I'd recommend. 5-star read for me, obviously, but the spice factor on it is 0. It is a closed door romance, so if spice doesn't make you comfortable, this one would be the perfect one to pick up. The next one was actually a short story, The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. This one I gave a 5-star to, obviously, and then I gave 0 out of 5 on spice. It's a quick little short story. I think it was under 100 pages. I don't remember how many, but somehow she does so much with the short amount of pages that she had in it. I could have gone a full novel with it, but I feel like it was perfect the way it was. I absolutely loved the characters. I loved the story. Maybe you're looking to get back into reading, but you don't want to invest a huge amount of 400 to 700 pages to a book and you're just trying to reignite a spark. Maybe pick this one up because I just thought it was so cute, so romantic. There's some deeper content in there too, so you feel like you're really getting a lot of depth out of the story. Overall, just one that I would definitely recommend, and it wouldn't take you a long time to read. The next one is actually not releasing until May. This one releases May 27th. I was sent an advance copy of it so I could do a review voluntarily, and my feedback on those, even though they're sent to me, is always honest. So this one was It's a Love Story by Annabelle Monaghan, who is one of my favorite authors. For spice on this one, I gave it a 0.5 out of 5. It didn't have full-on explicit scenes, but it was definitely a little bit more than just like flirting and kissing, so I did just want to put a little spice warning in there in case it doesn't make you comfortable. But overall, I think it's one that most people would be fine with. This book was just absolutely precious. I love how Annabelle Monaghan writes. She always writes more mature relationships, but they are still messy and real. It doesn't feel like they're perfect in any way. Nothing is ever wrapped up in this beautiful little bow. It just feels like you're getting to explore a relationship with your friends. She just has a very unique and special way of writing that it just feels like she puts magic in the ordinary. I don't know how else to explain it. She is such a talented writer. So I would definitely get this one on your pre-order list. Again, it comes out May 27th. I think it's going to be the perfect summer romance, to be honest with you, because it had all of the summer vibes. It just felt warm and comforting, and I absolutely loved it. The next one was First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. Spice rating on this one, there are some explicit scenes, but it was pretty light, so I gave it a 1 out of 5 on spice. This one, if you are into quintessential rom-coms, like the movies from like the 90s and the 2000s, you would probably love this one as much as I did. It just hit all of the boxes for me when it comes to rom-coms. It had like a nostalgic feeling to it. I absolutely loved the characters. I loved the story. There was nothing that I didn't love about this book. It was one that I did not want to put down, but it was also not stressing me out, which is just always what I'm looking for in a book. This is one I would definitely get on your radar because I absolutely loved it. All right, and then the last book was the 5-star we already discussed, which is Story of My Life by Lucy Score. Talked about that enough. Spice on that one was a 2 out of 5. If you want a further dive into any of those other books that I just talked about from the first quarter, please feel free to go back and watch my January and February reading wrap-ups. I will have them linked down below. That way you can watch them after it because I do a fuller dive into exactly what I loved about those 5-star reads. All right, you guys, so that wraps up everything that I read in the month of March and my 5-star reads for this year so far. If you happen to have any really good books that would shake up this slump that I've been in, please leave those in the comments down below. I personally love romance, but I've been in a thriller mood lately, so I really want to find a great thriller to like sink my teeth into. I love historical romance and I love historical fiction, so any of those categories, please feel free to leave them down below because not only will it help me, but it'll help you guys too see other recommendations that there might be. If you ended up enjoying my vibe on this channel, what I share mostly is grocery hauls and also meal inspiration. So if you struggle with meal planning and you're looking for some great recipes, please feel free to check out the rest of my channel because I have plenty of recipes to share with you. I hope you're walking away with a great book recommendation today. I hope I delivered whatever you needed when you clicked on that thumbnail, and I hope you have a magical day. Bye!